An elven warrior trapped on modern-day Earth. Two friends with different destinies meet at a magical school. These are some of the stories we at Electric Lips Comics are working on. You can get your copies of both The Mana Chronicles and Tales of Itherell at elpmerch.com. Support independent creators. Explore the merch featuring exciting ELP Comics art with a wide range of designs. Electric Lips Comics. Imagination electrified.
Well, welcome back, Oil Runners. This is Christinall.love, your host for today. We thank you for being able to come onto the show, Aaron. We're going to bring you on here in a second, but we want to make want to be able to send out the shout outs to the sponsors. We thank you, and we ask you to go ahead and go check their merch out. We already seen the one, Electric Lips Comics. They are great, honestly. They are from Canada, and their website is www.elpmerch.com. We also want to take a shout out for Michael W. Rogers Photography. He is one of the great photographers. Today is actually his birthday, so call him up. Let him know that you are there. At least tell him a happy birthday. You can find his work and his information on www.michaelwrogersphoto.com. He does boudoir. He does the children. He does weddings, all kinds of stuff, headshots in Las Vegas. He is willing to travel, so you can find this information there. So we want to welcome you, Mr. Aaron the Grackle. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
And wanted to start by saying happy birthday, Michael. I, too, am a photographer, so my best wishes to you on your birthday.
Oh, I'm sure he will say thank you because he does watch the show as well. Um, we'll probably have you guys both on, especially talking about photography. I didn't know you were a photographer. What kind of photography do you do?
Landscape photography is my usual forte. I just kind of like to randomly travel around and see what I can capture.
Ah, nice. And where are you located to do the landscape? What kind have you done?
Right now, I'm in California, but I'm a little bit of a roamer, so I've got pictures from everywhere. Um, Unfortunately, when I was out of the country, we weren't quite digital yet, not with the cell phones anyway, so don't really have the international pictures, but I've got a lot of mountain and woodland photos, and I'd say between here and Colorado and all over the East Coast. Excuse me.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, photography is nice. I do photography as well. This is one of my pictures in the background. I didn't know you did photography, but yeah.
Nice.
How long have you been doing it? How long have you been doing your photography?
Well, I'd probably say since I was in my early 20s when I would just kind of have to drive around in the car a lot. My parents, my adopted parents, they moved all around and had to move back to Connecticut when I went to college. So um, then they came back to North Carolina where I went to college. But then my family kind of split up from there and had to do a lot of driving around. So every time I drove, I both to kind of stay awake and to keep myself amused, I would just kind of take the side roads and the back roads instead of the freeways, and then I would just capture the culture along the way and shoot some landscapes and just get all that diversity. And I was always sort of a visionary, so I would just kind of see what I see in the clouds and the framing of the shots I'm about to grab, and I would just truly improvise.
Oh, so you're a true photographer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
people hate traveling
is that
because I'm. Oh, I'm sorry. We're a little lag time here.
oh no. Yeah. You said people hate
People.
traveling because what?
Yeah, they hate traveling with me because I would be one of those who stops every 30 minutes or so, and I'd just randomly pull over and get over to the side of the road and be like, "Oh, I've got to get this," and then I'd spend like 10 minutes taking
Ah,
my photo, get all over the ground, and
yep.
get all up on the fence if I need to. And,
Oh
yeah.
man, we'd be great with the partners out here on travels because I do the same thing. My friend got used to it. She's like, oh, wait, you need to go take that shot. She now knows how to frame stuff. Like she'll see it way out yonder, like, oh, what? Yeah. Yep. So we'll go climb the mountain or whatever it is. So yeah, no, up here, if you ever come up here, feel free. I am a definite stopper. So
Okay,
I get it. but, but is
good
that
to
how
know.
you yeah, is that how you got into your music? You know, those feelings that came out of that landscape, you know, those times that you were out there?
Yeah, my musical history is pretty interesting. It's a little bit on and off. I could never really stay grounded in it. As in, like, I started out learning piano, took some piano lessons. I can't even remember. I was like maybe five, maybe six. Um, I did one recital that I can recall vaguely. I think I played, what did I play? You Really Got Me. I played You Really Got Me, um, the oldies version. And that
Okay.
went pretty well, but it was kind of like I had a chance to play a cello at the elementary school I went to, so I jumped on that and just kind of got into my stringed instruments from there, and eventually got into guitar and string bass, and got to play in the high school marching band and concert band. And then after that, I just kind of gravitated a little bit more to the visual arts, and that's when I got into the photography and did a lot of filmmaking stuff, which I always did that. I was like the little brat that had all the friends over, and we'd just run around the yard and shoot movies, and I just kind of make them up as I go. And so I was always a little practiced at it, but
Uh,
I decided that's what I wanted to go to college for, and um, just kind of did the independent filmmaking thing for a long time as well. And then eventually just found my way back into music recently. I got into flamenco guitar when I was young and just got, even though I did a lot of different things with music, I was always really interested in building it. I got into like composing software that was starting to come out when I was a kid, and just kind of paused what I was doing with it for a while, I suppose, to get into the visual arts. And then here recently coming full circle again.
okay. Okay. So have you put anything out that's new now
Yes,
yet, or you're just still working?
absolutely. Yes. It really started with just there's a passion, but I don't really know what to do with it yet. So, um, my fiance Mystique, she's into all the same things. She's into the visual arts and the photography and even the music, and she's a really good singer. She's actually better trained at it than I am. So we just kind of got together, put our heads together, and said we had the software. She kind of had the decent setup going on with the at least the vocal interface, and we just kind of started building the songs from the software and up. Um, I eventually decided to just at random go to a guitar center and bought it. I found a fretless bass. It was like a rarity, like not acoustic full fledged, but like an acoustic fretless bass guitar that has the interface plugin. And that was all I needed because then I was
Mm-hmm.
able to combine my old cello skills and the stand up bass skills. And then I did learn some bass guitar when I was younger. So it's like, oh, this is a true weapon because I've got all those in one and all the different sounds I can make and the different notes I can hit and all the different slide moves I can make. So that was really kind of the foundation of my exploring sound design. that was finally like, oh, I've got a real instrument besides just a crappy acoustic guitar. Um, and the bass is just so critical. I mean, all the musicians watching and listening would attest. Like, without the strong bass and the flexible bass and the ability to be able to choose it correctly, like you don't really have a full song. So it was just a big learning experience for me to be able to pick up the instrument that I was once most familiar with and take it and run with it and just go exploring, learn from my mistakes. And so, anyways, long story short, got that. That kind of in turn improved my guitar skills. I was able to pick up some stuff from youth, stuff that I learned in the flamenco lessons I took. And um, so, together, Mystique and I completed the first album. We decided to make it sort of a duo band where it's basically just us, but it's mostly just the sound design aspect of it, but then also vocals between she and I. And then we just created the album, called ourselves, the band is called Rebels of Requiem Way, which is sort of just a poetry homage.
Okay.
We just like to be poetic in our lyrics and our vocals and explore different genres. And that's really what the first album was about. We decided to theme it around the seasons. So we just kind of wanted to put different genre fusions in there. But
Okay.
since
So
then,
these
I've
are
also
more
been,
like
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Since then, what
I was going to say I've also been
you
dabbling
said
as
since?
a solo. Yeah, sorry, lag time again. I've also been dabbling as a solo artist, which is why we go by Aaron the Grackle. Sometimes Aaron the Grackle Maurice. It just kind of depends on where I'm at in the music. And I do, of course, also want to network with some other musicians and get into all kinds of genre fusions. But since then, I've been contemplating a few more albums and we're working on some singles as a solo artist. So I'm really looking to get into my hands. Excuse me. I'm really looking into getting my hands into a lot.
Okay. Is there anywhere that you have played at, like did I won't say a concert, but just a place where a lot of people came and listened?
Yeah, not yet, but that is the next thing I'm looking at doing as well. Been going out locally and just seeing what kind of local bands I can listen to and what kind of venues I can get into, and started making some friends in that circle. So that's going to be the next move. Right now, I'm living right near Riverside, California. So as soon as we get started, that will be where we're going to be playing.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty cool. So now your music, is that more like of a relaxed kind of a tone? You know how like the instrumentals where you're just sitting in your house enjoying life. Like, how would you describe your type of music?
Good question. I don't know that I would describe it as gentle. It has its gentle moments. I would probably describe it, going back to the being poetic part. I like to show a lot of emotion in my music, probably because of those old flamenco lessons. Flamenco is a very emotional, very classical, meticulous genre. So I think I've just kind of carried that into no matter what kind of guitar oriented things I do, especially. So I tend to go a lot of mood swings, I suppose. And with the vocals, it would go the same way. So I wouldn't say calm. I would just say surreal and full circle and full of flavor. But as far as the genres go, I
Okay.
would say uh, it's a focus in rock overall, but the fusions we do would be blues and jazz. Always have a really polyrhythmic feel to it, especially in the beats. And then I explore other genres like punk, and of course get into the classical. I just have to kind of choose my moments.
Okay. So you go by your whatever you're going through right there, and then just produce whatever it is coming out. Is
Right.
that what I'm
And I
understanding?
always kind of, yes, and always pick a theme with the song, and whichever the way the theme seems to lean is where the fusion tends to go. There's always that little bit of jazz
Okay.
influence and the rock.
Jazz is actually it, all those genres are actually pretty. Um, it's quite interesting to fuse them like that. And I did listen to some of it, so it was kind of interesting. I have to be, I definitely can't be busy doing something else while listening to it. I have to like put myself into that moment. Uh, that's when I was playing your music. That's why I was kind of interested. Oh, that's kind of cool. I just couldn't be doing, just off the wall stuff real quick. Like, I
Right,
would just go onto YouTube, but
right.
I like it. I really do. I That's why I was like, okay, huh, all right, what kind of mood we got today? Um, yeah. So you said you were is- your parents, your adopted parents. How did they get to all this? Are they supportive,
Well,
or are you?
oh yeah, yeah, very supportive. It's really kind of a long story. We may not get into all of it quite yet today, but I was adopted basically at birth out of a small, quaint beachside town called Pascagoula, Mississippi. And it's got a lot of really interesting little
Mm-hmm.
facts about it. A lot of old mythology, really going back like before the Revolutionary War, and um, there's a lot of history there. Let's just put it that way. Um, the river there is called the Singing River, and I was basically adopted from day one out of the hospital called the Singing River Hospital. Um,
Mm.
and I was very lucky. I was adopted to very loving parents, and kind of just skipped from Mississippi over to Connecticut, and that's where I spent my first 11 years. And my adoptive mother, Karen, she was very loving. I only say was because unfortunately both of them have passed on. But Karen was one of a
I'm sorry to
kind.
hear.
She was, oh, thank you, thank you. Karen was one of a kind. She was a very experienced and practiced nurse, and I was actually a very sickly and little baby. Um, Probably a miracle that I made it through the birth. And, of course, my biological parents were just too young at the time to keep me, and probably didn't really know about me so as much as they probably should have. That's a long story. Um,
Mhm.
so, anyways, I ended up with Karen and Steve, like I said, and she was a great nurse. She was pretty much the only one who was able to take care of me, like as in if I'd wake up in the middle of the night having a asthma attack or something like that, she would always rush me into the hospital, save my life. I don't know how many times. And I think that's kind of what drove my creativity, like the combination of the love and the care I'd received, like along with probably the really wild dreams that I would get when I get those near death experiences. And it's almost like there was healing in that because I would take the dreams and I'd make something of it, and then I'd have the loving parents that would support me doing those crazy things as a kid and running around the house with a camera and stuff like that, and wondering, oh, what's that kid doing now? It's almost like it didn't matter to them because they saw that I was doing something that I was passionate about. And then my
Yeah.
adoptive father, oh, I'm sorry, go.
Go for it. Yeah, you're good.
Oh, I was just gonna say real quick, my adoptive father, Steve, he was just a very attentive father and very loving and caring. And he would always listen to Jimi Hendrix and kind of got me into that sort of music already growing up. And then he would notice me on a guitar or something like that, and then he'd just kind of make comments like, "Wow, you've really got an ear for music." So eventually, he would just foster that really gradually, not forcefully in any kind of way, but just in the ways that he should. And then he's the one that got
Mhm.
me into the flamenco guitar lessons, and he gave me the wild idea maybe you should fuse some things like jazz and blues into a genre like flamenco. So that's something I've recently just been really seriously getting into and trying to make songs of.
Trying to honor him in that situation, or with all that.
Yes, but also honor myself as well, because it was almost one of the saddest expressions he ever gave me the day that I was 12, maybe 13, and I gave up those flamenco lessons. It was kind of both ways for me. It was like a selfless act. It was kind of like, hey, I'm just still a kid. I'm 12 years old. It's not that I'm not passionate enough, but I wanted a childhood. For some reason, I had like an inner need for it, and I wasn't really utilizing the lessons like I should. I mean, they were really serious, like practice 4 to 5 hours every day after school, sort of serious. And it's like, whoa, I have other things I want to explore artistically too. So
Uh,
it's like, that's kind of what I told my dad at the time, was that I wanted to take a break from the music and get into those other arts. But I did promise him and myself on that day there would be a day when I would get back into it, get back into the music and go back into flamenco.
it's understandable. Um, yeah, because you can only practice for so long, and I think a little bit goes a long way on that situation with practicing. Because I had to do that too. I didn't I didn't do it all the way my parents wanted to do it. Now I'm getting back into it like you have.
Yeah,
It's like, all right, I'll do it on my own time here. Like we're not, um, being forced to do something that you love to do is kind of crazy. I get
yeah,
passionate. It's too much on kids.
yeah,
Like
yeah. Well,
you
that
said,
guitar
childhood,
teacher,
they need a child.
right? He was really good. I mean, he told me he practiced 10 to 12 hours per day himself. So he was like, I expect at least four from you. And I look back at it, I don't really regret it. I
Are you
should
there?
have probably got back into flamenco just a little bit earlier than I have, but at least I still remember most of the lessons. I remember the instructor and how tough he was and how good he was, and all the lessons he told me, like the psychological ones. And now I understand it. Like you said, now that we're adults, it's like, oh, 4 hours a day, that's nothing. Of course I could do that. I'm sorry. My screen looks like it's frozen up.
Yeah. I don't know what. Are you there?
Yeah, I could kind of hear you.
Okay.
Now I can hear you.
All right. Cool. Sorry, folks. I don't know what happened there. Um, but I guess we're still recording, so everything went off the computer. But yeah. So nurturing the children in a positive way would be a better bet. Letting the children have um, a childhood, but also little by little thing. I think would be a better bet.
Okay. Are we still running?
Are we there?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm still getting a little lag here, but all right, we're good. Yeah. I think the upbringing is definitely a big step into it, and then also just being able to go out on your own by the time you hit that adulthood and start learning things. It's like you got to take what they gave you growing up, and then you have to start from scratch on the other hand, and you have to kind of learn, okay, now what's my method of adapting to things and evolving as a person and as an artist. So that's things that I sort of hesitated on finding earlier in my adulthood, just because of all the drama and sort of tragedy that's happened around the adoptive parents, which we don't have to get into too much today. But that was just probably one of life's biggest curveballs and learning lessons. And there was a few steps back involved there, and it was, I suppose, a sort of thing that would make it an underdog story with regards to me, because it was like that point you hit the lowest, but then you gradually start to learn your own ways in life, and you rise up from that like the phoenix. And that is a little bit reasoning behind the nickname the grackle. I've always had a big thing for birds, and especially the grackles, and their squawking at people, and always kind of walking around like little monkeys with wings. So um, I've always had the affinity for birds. I've always just kind of noticed them and listened to them, and I feel like they, in their own strange little ways, they talk to us and they tell us things. So seems like they've always had a presence in my life. Um, Seems like I always kind of have a presence in theirs. So I listen to them, and they kind of tell me things, and then here we are. So it seemed like a fitting nickname.
Yeah, yeah. Me and birds, I like them. I don't get along with them to a point. It's not my fault. I don't know why. Like, I get chased by peacocks as a little, so I'm kind of afraid of them. I'll walk into their environment, but no, no, we're good on that end. I'm
Yeah,
more of a bear person.
I've
Like,
heard that's really
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Me and bears get along more than me and a chicken. That's really weird. Um, yeah, I can't do it. I can be on a farm, but I have to have a dog with me to jack up the chicken if need be. I need my protector. But the bear, I don't take a gun. Well, I'm sorry, a gun. Got to put that out there so they don't knock me out. But or a bells and whistles or nothing. I'm just like, oh, okay. I'll take the camera, but and I'll take lunch.
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
that's where I connect with the people. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, what about school? Like you were saying that you in all the like the bands and all that stuff. How did the teachers handle your gift?
How did the teachers handle my gift?
How did the teachers handle
Well,
your gift?
um, I would say it would be hit or miss, just because I wasn't really the best behaved kid growing up, just naturally going through those sort of little traumas that I went through. Even though my parents were so good, it's kind of like their forgotten traumas is what they become, but they're still sort of there in the subconscious. So I was in different
Yeah.
phases when my body would go through different changes. So it's like one year I'd be the class clown to speak up and always out of turn and have to always sit in the timeout corner. But then other years I'd be the quiet kid that just kind of sits there, and sometimes I'd drift off asleep and all that fun stuff. So I would have teachers that would show concern, but at the same time, I would have some that would seem like they're understanding and would see that I'm still trying and would like become really, really good teachers. Um, so I would say there was a little bit of
Right.
variety in how I was handled, but I got much better in college. I feel like I'm maybe one of those people that just learns a little bit better independently, just at least feeling more independent. Because in college it's like, well, you're totally on your own now, to an extent, you know, mostly, more or less. So yeah, it was kind of like I did a lot better as a student in college, and that's where like a lot of my best student teacher interactions did come from. So some kids, I suppose, are late bloomers like myself, but in college, I really sprouted those wings, and I had some teachers that showed really like outgoing support. Like I did technically do a film degree when I was in college in North Carolina, and one of the film professors there liked the idea that I had, and it was kind of like a feature length script, but it wasn't a really big, expensive technical school, so they only did short films for like the student thesis to get the bachelor's degree. Um, but I was just one of those crazy kids. I was like, hey, I know I could do this feature really cheap, so maybe just let me film it, and maybe I could just rent out some equipment once in a while. And the professor basically gave it to me as a class credit and let it become my thesis project. And I was able to just go in and sort of check out any equipment I needed at the time. So I ended up getting the first feature film done, which technically became IMDb qualified, and it won a little award at the Las Vegas Film Festival in 2010. And then I just kind of went on and off in pursuing a little bit of an independent film career after that.
That's pretty cool. So are you still doing it now, or are you just now focusing on your music and oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I recently have competed pretty heavily at film festivals, just the small to medium festivals, like the independent ones, with a project called Shadow Legacy. It is, if you
mhm.
go to the Aaron the Grackle Facebook page, it's sort of linked to that. It's linked to at least my personal profile, but I can always link it up. I'll link that up later. But anyway, Shadow Legacy, it's a little bit of a genre bender as well. Visually, it's a horror, sci-fi, fantasy. Gets a little bit into the sword and sorcery genre just because it's a little bit of a time bender as well. So it kind of goes back and forth through different eras of time and follows these two characters that are just mysteriously reincarnated into these different eras, and they're always fighting each other basically to the death, and always trying to influence mankind and all through those eras of time. And now in current times there's a government agency that's trying to hone in on all that, and it's trying kind of coming to a head in the modern times. So we parallel that with what happened in history, and it would become one of those big it would have to be like a streaming series sort of thing just because it's such a big idea. But we started out with a pilot episode, and we won, I don't really know, I lost count, but it's at least 30 something awards across festivals, few international, but mostly just in this country.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So what these film festivals, I keep hearing about them, but I was always been curious, like what do you have to do to qualify for all that, and how much, like what is it? I mean, is it like almost like I'm not gonna, but yeah, what's the qualifications for all that?
Oh, it's really not much at all. Pretty much anyone can do it. The best way to do it, I found, is just to go through Film Freeway, and I think it does require like an account, like creating an account, but you just link it up to your email, and it is, I believe you have to pay for it. It may be a free trial involved, but once you're linked to that, then it links up like all the festivals that are independent festivals, basically link up to that. Some of the big festivals do too. And then through your account, you just click which festival you want and go to the registration, and usually just have to pay a little bit of money. And luckily, I did have a budget, like at least a little bit of a budget for the pilot episode idea I had. So I reserved just a little bit of that to be able to put into, on the back end toward the festivals. But honestly, though, that budget I had was like nothing in comparison to the pink elephant size of ambition that the project had. So I didn't get to fully explore it quite yet. We ended up with a 30-minute long pilot episode, but the way the whole series is formatted, it really needs to kind of be hour-long episodes. So I'm still that whole project is still a little bit in the works, but took a break from it just because of the way the industry is and the shape it's in. I said, hey, now would be a time to get more into music, which there's also big music plans behind Shadow Legacy and other things, other projects that I intend to do. I'm one of those people, I just have so many different ideas. It's kind of like, how am I going to spend the rest of my life doing that, because it's just so many. It's like I would almost need a whole team of people. And someday I do hope to get that, so that all the ideas could be explored eventually. But the music videos too, that's another reason.
Yeah, it's like having
right. Well, the video skills also would go towards the music as far as the videos go.
There you go. Yeah, it's like having ADHD, man. Like all these ideas and 1,000 over here, working 10,000 projects, but it works. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
Shoot. Yeah. Like, so with the film festival, is it equivalent to like having like the community, almost like those medieval times communities and that kind of stuff, or is that just a whole different world?
Well, it varies per festival, and there was a time, I'm sure every independent filmmaker could attest to this. There was a time when festivals were great, and it's like you almost all of them are in person, and you're really getting together with all these other artists, and you're networking, and yeah, you're meeting musicians, you're meeting filmmakers, and you're meeting sometimes celebrities even. But I think since the days of COVID, it's really affected not just the bigger industry, but even the independent industry. So now it's kind of like, ever since 2020, most festivals have converted to mostly just online. A lot of them sort of get into podcasting and do like live streaming, which is still kind of cool because there's some networking involved in that, and it is still live networking. It's just not quite in person. Some festivals are still going on in person, but I found at least the years that I've submitted, which was 2021, 2022, and a little bit of 2023, it was mostly just the internet sort of festivals. But you still go through different rounds, like round 1, round 2, round 3, and you just keep making the cuts until eventually you end up competing with for one of the awards, kind of like your standard award shows where there'd be like 5-6 different nominees, and that's usually how they're structured. And then that'll be the final round that you either get the award or you just get the runner up. In most cases we got the award, but there was a few of them we were nominees. But either way, you still get a nice
Sounds
little,
like an interesting ordeal.
Yeah, you still get a nice little certificate even if you get the runner up.
Oh, like thank you for trying.
Yeah.
But I mean, every these films I'm pretty sure is really really good. So it's kind of a interesting thing to just watch everybody's gifts just go forth.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really like, especially being able to apply to the different types of festivals and select different types of awards to go for. It's really like it was research for me as well, because then I'm like, okay, I'm learning more about the demographic, what types of audiences prefer my work, and also which types of awards are winning, and like almost put that into a little bit of a pie graph for myself. And I did notice that the sound design and the music were two of the big headliners that were consistently winning, and editing as well. And that made me realize, well, those are my strengths, because those were kind of my positions with the film idea. So I just kind of took that and ran with it and said, well, that's where I should probably put most of my focus, and then branch out from there.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah. So I mean, that's when's your next film gonna come out? Do you know?
Well, I'd say for the time being, we're going to keep the focus on music videos, because a lot of our songs, as we talked about earlier, are very poetic, and they shift moods. And I'm finding a lot of visual potential there. And I've got just a whole stockpile of videos I've taken. I do that just like the photography. A lot of times I'll just be in the right place at the right time, and I'll say, oh, I should grab that as video. So really, all it takes for a lot of our songs, like the ones that me and Mystique did together, it just involves us going out and filming ourselves a little bit now, and singing the songs, and maybe being with our instruments a little bit. So that's really the only half of like all music videos we need to shoot. Otherwise, we've already got pretty much all the footage. So I intend to spend a little more time focusing on that area of it, because it's still very visual. It still carries all the same themes as like the work that I established with the Shadow Legacy idea that I was just talking about. So, in a lot of these festivals, they have like the music video award categories as well. So, I've never really tried that. Well, I have. I've made some music videos, but I've never explored that fully. Never made one myself, like officially. So that's just something I want to explore next. And then after that, yeah, there's plenty of scripted things that I would like to take care of. There's a historical fiction. It's sort of a really ambitious novel series idea that I want to get into at some point in my life. And that might be something that I start with like a short film project about, and then see about expanding it from there. It'd be a little too big budget to just say, hey, I want to do a hour-long pilot episode for it, because that'd probably be like just Netflix sort of stuff. I'm not there yet, but someday soon. So we'll start small with ideas like that. But I'm ambitious enough. I can definitely do a story set in the 1500s, as long as it's only just limited amount of time, and give me a couple good sets and some good actors, and just get my hands dirty and get something like that done. Put that around the festival circuit and see how people respond to that. So that would probably be the next
Right.
project. It just may take a year or two after doing the music thing.
And do what they got to do. So when your music, when is that CD? Um, how can we purchase your CDs?
Yes. Right now on Spotify, there is a link. I can always just send that to you. So we're available on Spotify and also on iTunes, and that's Rebels of Requiem
Okay.
Way. So that's the first album that Mystique and I did together, and there are a few singles that we've mostly done together, and those are like our initial songs, like the ones that started out maybe going to be on the album, but then we got the better songs later, and we just kind of threw those off as singles. And then I've got maybe one or two recent singles that are more just instrumentals for now, that I'm starting as a solo artist.
Okay. Wow, iTunes. I haven't heard iTunes in forever. I feel old now. That's still going on though.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard iTunes. I haven't used iTunes in forever. Spotify. Okay. I got that. But man, have you ever put anything on YouTube?
Yes. Right now we just don't have the actual videos yet. As I mentioned, they're still up here in the idea phase, but we do have like at least the album banner up. So those could all be viewed on YouTube as well. So I could provide that link also, and we'll plan to get those videos in ASAP.
Okay.
I'm probably going to start working on one in the next couple weeks at least. And then from there, we'll just start rolling them out.
Okay. Yeah. Get those links and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we can put the links in once we get them all. We'll put them in the chat. But make sure all the information's there to be able to contact you at least, and to get onto your.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Would you ever teach? Yeah, no problem. Would you ever teach what you do to other people? Would that be in your wheelhouse too, or is that just something?
Absolutely. Yeah. That would definitely be the direction I want to be able to take this. As I mentioned before, I definitely want to build a team. And it's really what I'm trying to do is just establish a foundation of new and old art methods combined, and basically bring a little bit of old mythology back just in a new way. And I think there is a brand to build behind that. And someday I do want to end up with a team that I can
Mm,
branch out with and build that brand with, and get into just all the platforms that we can, starting with music and film and streaming, and just get into maybe bringing some poetry back somehow, doing some visual things to bring it back. I guess bring back the art that challenges people intellectually again. That's really the main point. I see mythology as a really good vehicle to get there, because mythology is something that still can apply to everyday life. It used to really apply to everyday life, in a time when people would still sit around the campfires and tell those stories. So I suppose I want to bring that element back,
mhm.
like that element that makes it spiritual, that makes it like nostalgic, and sitting around that campfire and bringing that passion back. So that's definitely the legacy that I would want to leave in any way that I could. And yeah, I've even thought about teaching kids from time to time. I was really, really close to actually doing like after school program where I would teach like theater arts sort of stuff to kids, but I would be like the musical person of that group. But I ended up just not being able to do it at the last minute, unfortunately. But I would look into something like that again for sure.
Okay. So, what would you tell kids, especially those that were in your situation, that are going through right now? What would you give as an inspiration for them to keep going in their music or whatever it is that they're going through?
Yeah. Well, I would say definitely never give up, no matter the degree of um, pain that you're going through, because I've been through a lot myself. um, and times always get tough. I say life is always like waves. Sometimes they're rough and sometimes they're calm, and you'll find the music there, because that's the very nature of music. So especially for the ones that are musicians, but really any kind of art, because music is poetry, poetry is music, poetry flows, it has the waves up and down too. Poetry could be applied to every art, every platform. So I really think that's why I focus on music. I use the music analogies, but any artistic kid could take it the same concept and run with it. You just want to find that music in life and find your rhythm and get in sync with it, get in sync with the people around you that care about you and gravitate towards them. Don't mind those that want to shame you or be jealous of you. Um, just keep pushing through it all. And someday, if you really reach down into who you really are as a person, reach down into that subconscious and use that to make your art. Once you really learn who you are, then it won't matter who is trying to get into your way. Especially if you're gravitating towards the right people, you're eventually going to get the support you need, and you'll eventually be able to pull gold out of yourself as an artist and as a person too. And that'll be healing. It'll be a healing experience for you. You'll feel less pain, and life will slowly start to get better. So no matter what you're going through, just push through it and stay open and always learn and be adaptive, and eventually you'll find that goal.
That was actually pretty cool. I actually needed to hear that, honestly. Thank you. Um, yeah, that see there, folks. Um, that's a strong person right there. And art is a very, very um, healing, a healing mechanism to it.
Absolutely.
You know, around us as creator, colors, whatever it is, we got to pull into that as well. So, Mr. Aaron, we thank you for coming on to the show. And we definitely want to bring you back on. And hopefully, maybe Mystique would come on as well, um, and to share your guys' next whatever's going on. And feel free to share on the broadcast, on the Facebook, the broadcast, Oil Runners broadcast, Facebook, what you're doing and what stuff, and just tag it in there so people can see where you guys are at and what you're doing and how you guys are doing as well. So yeah, we thank you. So you guys can look us up on Oil Runner Podcast, um, and you could also see Christinall.love 3574 on YouTube, the full video, and also just be creative. Keep being creative and keep being you. Keep inspiring others, and keep growing and just keep doing what you love. So we thank you.